Is week 12, and I am going to be going over 6.4 station on unfolding a 6-pack carton, and it pushes it onto a conveyor. So essentially a 6-pack unfolds and it pushes it onto a conveyor. The conveyor moves the cartons into a station that puts 4 cartons into a box and packs bottles of products into the boxes. And it's my job to implement the change of like a cookbook and uploading a sequential chart on the following process. So my sequential chart is on a Google Doc, and here I am in a ladder diagram with following my sequential chart. So taking the time to quickly go over my sequential chart here with the 6 steps we have right here on the left, and we have our transitions in the middle and our actions in the very far right. And I want to take a time and pause and show you my pause function block right here we have, and then my reset. So we go back to the ladder diagram here. Now following the ladder diagram with our 6 steps, we have our start, of course, and we have our reset and initial reset in its default position, which is going to be closed. And once these are true, open, you can, of course, it'll take you to run, and it'll equal to step 0, which moves it to step 1. And then now we are on step number 1. So in order to energize for step number 2 on our move blocker, we're going to have to make these true, which is rotate ELS, and then our rot back OK. So the cool thing about these equal and move boxes is that, so as you can see, for step 1, we actually do use it throughout the circuit, as you can see right here and right here. However, it won't activate step 1 on any of these boxes because it has to equal the step number that it's provided on. So going back to step 2, we have here our rotate RLS needs to be energized in order to move to step 3. So once that's energized, we can move set to true, move to step 3. As you can see here on our step number 4, it needs to be equal to step number 1 in order to energize, because we have here our ROT BAC connected to our ROT BAC. So going back to step number 3 here, as we release our vacuum carton, we have our T 500 milliseconds as the instructions were provided in the textbook. So once we have that, we can then go to step number 4, which is push the carton into position. So we have our, of course, our equal, and then we have to have this energized true in order to go to step number 5. As step 5 is lowering, unfolding the mechanism. So we have here our transitions right here. So we have our top VAC OK, our bot VAC OK, and our raise RLS and our push RLS. So we can get by all of those, and then we'll be able to go to step number 6, as we have to erect the carton, and we have it going back to step number 1, of course, which then brings us back to the top. So now I went over my steps. We can go over our actions. We have here our coils that are designated with each step position. So we have our first step going with our rotate extend, and we have our going into step number 2. We have our rotate retract, and we put this at 100 just so we have no interference with ever reaching that number. So then we'll go back to our rotate VAC, which is going to be step number 2, which is retracting the rotate arm with a new carton. And then we have our push cylinder, of course dealing with step number 4, and then our raise retract, which is dealing with step number 5, lowering the unfolding mechanism. After step 5 is energized, it will move us on to step 6, which is going to be our last step, and as it's dealing with the raising the extension, which is erecting the carton. And we have here it's going from 5 to 6, which is going to be the last jump. It's connected to our top VAC and our bot VAC. So that's our actions dealing with this, following the steps. The textbook, it does mention that there is a pause function where it pauses everything but the vacuum controls, which makes sense because you don't want anything to fall, like such as a carton, and that's that's what we were pushing for, to leave the vacuum control on just so it maintains the carton. So diving in on that, I just go back to our actions. We're dealing with our first and second step. They have no run. So if it is paused, like the question asks, our rotate vac will stay on, along with our step 5 and 6 being our top VAC and our bot VAC, because of course they don't have a run, so it stays, their power won't be cut. So going over my steps and transactions now, I am on my reset. Of course, the run needs to be off in order for this to go. And so we have this set to 101, which is then right here on step number 6. So going back down, we just follow our retract cylinder. So our transitions are going to be our raise ELS, push RLS, and rotate RLS. And then we have our initial reset right here, and then so we are able to reset from back to 0. And that is 6.4, and this is my PLC class.